I sent, I think, like three different textbooks, and they were all from England. And what's interesting was when you read the British textbooks, they start talking about the Sons of Liberty, and they like to make references to the Sons of Liberty being a terrorist group. First question I have to ask anybody in this room, have you ever heard of the Sons of Liberty being referred to as a terrorist group? These are great American heroes. These are young rebels who stood up and said, we're not going to take this tyranny. They pushed back, overcoming immense odds. You know, the British had the largest military in the world at that point in time. The US technically wasn't the US and didn't have a military. So here's these young guys. Now you notice the British are going to refer to them as a terrorist group. We're going to call them liberty fighters, you know, rebellions, great patriots, and things like that. Another section I sent to you talked about George Washington, and the British referred to him as an executioner, that there were soldiers who weren't obeying what he was saying, and so he tried them and had them executed. Same question. Have you ever heard of George Washington being referred to as an executioner? Did he give orders to have soldiers executed? Yes, he did. Because he wanted, you know, rules being followed and the military had to follow. These were guys who were shirking their duty, who were leaving the front lines and stuff like that as well. So let me throw this question to you again. Why do you think the British talk about him and refer to him as like an executioner, killing off his own soldiers, where we never touch that in our textbooks? The idea of teaching history and civics and things like that is to build better citizens. We don't really want to talk about our leaders doing stuff that's like, we want the best, especially going back to the 1700s, 1800s, even the early 1900s. We just wanted the founding fathers, the Thomas Jeffersons, James Madisons, George Washingtons. They had to be kind of perfect people. We didn't want to hear about all the negatives. Let's not talk about them owning slaves. That gets into a kind of a murky area as well. So yeah, we're going to highlight this. So then, why are the British doing this? What do they gain from telling their students that George Washington did some bad things? They want to emphasize the fact, I mean, let's be honest, that war doesn't turn out very well for them. And part of that textbook excerpt too, they also kind of make comments like, well, we didn't lose that war. We just gave up on that war. We kind of got tired of fighting. We had been fighting all these other places. So you Americans didn't necessarily win the war. We just kind of got tired of winning or losing. And so we just said, that's it. We're going to take off at this point in time here. There are other excerpts where they talk about Thomas Paine. The British always like to get this little shot in all their textbooks, in which they make the reference that Thomas Paine, who we consider the godfather, the intellectual godfather of the American Revolution, he wrote a pamphlet called Common Sense, and he laid out all the reasons why we should be fighting this war. And the British love to point out that when he was in England, his job was he sold women's underwear. And so the British like to get that in and go, okay, you guys see him as an intellectual giant. We see him as somebody who sold lingerie. That's the difference between the two here. So it's kind of a friendly rivalry. They get their shots in occasionally as well here.